use the right word, upavas. What is upavas? To be near truth. What is Upanishad? To be near the Guru. So Mahavir was so near the truth that the needs of the body were completely forgotten. So when you say that I am doing the upavas, are you near that truth that you don't have any body needs? That's what Mahavir was doing. Mahavir was not saying that I am not eating for 12 days. I was not eating for 1 month. No. He was so near the truth that he didn't have the needs of the body. And he could take that energy directly from the air. Now if you can do that, you can do upavas. But giving suffering to your body, eating your own fat, I don't think there's a big mistake made in misinterpreting what his message was. He said, do upavas. Try to be near truth. That was his message. His message was not that you don't eat. That's a torture. Mahavir, whose concept of non-violence that I talked about, would never imagine but would want you to do that. And there is a second proof. There is a second proof why I can with emphasis say that Mahavir said this is because he was asked to define who is Muni. Mahavir was asked to define what is a Muni. You know what his definition is? There has never been a succinct one-word definition of a Muni ever given by anybody that I know of. One word he defines Muni. And it doesn't say Muni is one who has done 4 months non-eating without water. He doesn't say that. He says Asutta Muni. Asutta Muni. Which is the same thing that Krishna has said in Gita. No difference whatsoever. Asutta, one who is not asleep. Not asleep. Not one who is fully aware. Who is fully awake all the time. With total consciousness, one who he is. Even when he is sleeping, his consciousness is awake. His body sleeps. But yogi never sleeps. That's what Krishna says in Gita. Define yogi. Okay. Same thing Mahavir says. Asutta. One word definition, but a powerful definition. So I think Mahavir would never say, don't eat and eat my truth. Never said that, in my view. One another unique contribution of Mahavir, it is absolutely fascinating, and one may believe it, one may not believe it, but I don't think that anything that Mahavir would say is unbelievable, because you can say he himself was totally unbelievable, I would agree. But anything he did or anything he said, I don't think that I would question him. He is one way of selecting whether you are ready for entering his path of total will of meditation to find truth was. And I think it is unique, another uniqueness of Mahavir, why he fascinates me, is that he was able to take you through hypnosis into your past lives. Buddhism would call Jati Smarana. Jati Smarana. So if you want to go to Mahavir and say, I want to follow and give me Diksha and I would follow the way of learning truth, first of all, Mahavir will hypnotize him and take him to many past lives. And when he would take to many past lives, people would soon realize that this they have been doing for thousands of years. Okay? They were born and they lived and they married and they had kids and they had material richness and or no material richness and died. The same thing over and over again, million times. And once you know that that's what you have been doing, the real suffering is boredom. And then Mahavir said, look, you want to get out of this rut? This is what? For millions of years you have done this. How many times you want to do it? Do you want to remain in the first grade for your whole life? Graduate out of first grade. Now it's time for you to do something. And then Mahavir would say, now you are ready to enter my path because you want to get out of this rut. So whole Mahavir's emphasis is how to get out of this will, the circle that you have been moving all the time, life after life after life after life. He said, now if you want to get out of that rut and get to that Advaita stage of total freedom and total mukti or moksha, what we Jainas call it. Now you are ready and enter this path of meditation. So another misunderstanding I want to remove, and I am making a very controversial statement, I know that. But any Jaina who believes in Mahavir or any Jaina who really believes in Jainism, I cannot conceive of him doing the puja. Mahavir never advocates that. Mahavir says, if that is what your mark, get out of my way. I am not for that. My path is of total sankalpa. If you want to solely rely upon yourself and nobody else, then come to my way. My way is a way of male, aggressive, self-reliance. If you are prepared to be totally alone, then you seek my way. And it is good that we have this tradition of burning after death. Otherwise, I believe the Buddha and Mahavir would be turning in their graves. What their followers are doing. There had never been more statues or pratibhas of Buddha than anybody else. And Buddha was completely, totally, 100% against that. Totally. Mahavir was totally against anybody surrendering to him. When he rejects God even, he says, I don't need him. Such a man would want you to do his puja. Now if you really want to do puja, if your way is surrendering, your way is bhakti, then it makes sense to you go to Krishna's mandir and surrender yourself. I can understand that. I personally believe that it is very difficult to surrender in the days of modern, days that we are living in, because reason has become so powerful in this modern world that I don't think it is possible now to totally surrender to somebody. Never. It was a different age when Arjuna was told by Krishna that after Arjuna questions and questions and questions, and ultimately Krishna says, come surrender to me. If nothing else, surrender to me. Now if somebody comes today, even Krishna comes and tells you to surrender him, we will have a question, this guy must be really very egoistic. What is he saying? Impossible. The modern age is so much reason-oriented, science-oriented, that total surrendering to somebody, who is he? Not possible. But if that's your way, you can do that. Nothing better. Nothing better. That's why Vigyan Bhairav Tantra, where 112 methods of meditation, where Shiva teaches Parvati. So Parvati asked a very fundamental question. He said, Swaminath, I found truth by just totally surrendering to you. I can totally lost my ego by just surrendering to you. But not many people can do that like me. So tell me, what are the ways that other people, other human beings can find truth? And Shiva said, these are 112 methods of meditation. And there are billions of people who are born, will be born, will die and born. And there is not a single person who will be born to whom one of the 112 methods will not apply. That is the Vigyan. So Mahavir's way, I don't think he would tell you to go to Mandir and bow down to anybody. He never did. He never did. Mahavir never had any guru. Mahavir never ever had any guru. He found truth by himself. And even when you would like to follow his path, you may believe that you were his disciple. Mahavir would never say that I am your guru. Mahavir would never say that I am your guru. You can say that. But he would never say that I am your guru. He would only say that I am your friend. I am your friend, I can walk with you to a certain extent. I can show you the way and I can walk with you. But then my friend, you are alone. It's very clear, absolutely clear. Both Buddha and Mahavir are absolutely clear that you cannot have borrowed truth. Nobody can give you truth. Nobody. It's impossible. You have to find truth yourself. This is a road where two is impossible. That's why Kabir has this beautiful poetry. Satya ki gadi ati sakari, tame dona samay. The path of truth is very narrow. Two people cannot walk it. You have to be one. It's only for those few who are very adventurous, who can rely solely upon themselves, who are willing to walk alone without the necessity of relying upon, depending upon anybody else. Those are the only few people who can select the path of Mahavir and Buddha. So in effect, I have to understand the way or the technique of Mahavir and Buddha both to find truth is apramad. Apramad means what? Pramad means lethargy, sleepiness. So both Mahavir and Buddha said that you may believe that what you are in the present days is Jagruti, wakefulness. That's not true. We are all walking in the sleep. We are living in the sleep. Most of our actions, if you watch very closely, are automatic. You know, somebody says something, we are not rulers of ourselves. All our reactions depend upon somebody else. If somebody else will praise us, we will become happy. If somebody else says about something which is not good about us, we will become unhappy. So the total keys of how we will be depends on somebody else. And Mahavir calls that murcha, pramad. All our life we live with total sleep. So Mahavir's whole emphasis is how can you get out of that sleep to wakefulness. The whole meditation of Mahavir, in a nutshell if you want to define, is an attempt to be awake. In Zen, in Japan, in Zen, they have a meditation, what they call tea meditation. Tea. They take a cup of tea and meditate. Now what do they meditate? Think about it. Think about it. You take the cup of tea. Can you spend 15 seconds doing nothing except taking tea? Think about that. Can you just by taking tea for 10 seconds not think anything else? Not possible. You have 1001 thoughts going through your mind while you are taking tea. Taking tea becomes an act of murcha. It's automatic. You take up the cup, goes into your mouth, you think that you are drinking tea, but your mind is somewhere else. So if you can take 15 minutes of taking tea in the morning, and if you can bring total awareness to that drinking tea without thinking anything else, then that's meditation. If you can do nothing but the act in which you are doing, you can become totally in that act at that moment. That's meditation. So the whole approach of realizing truth, according to Mahavir, is this sadhana of how to get out of apramad, from pramad to apramad, from sleeplessness to wakefulness, with total automatic reactory activities to any act that you out of your full consciousness and full awareness. That in a nutshell is the method of Mahavir to realizing truth, not surrendering. And if you do not take anything out of what I said so far, nothing is lost. You can forget it, okay? But what the next point I am going to make is so relevant. That is why I have selected Mahavir today for today's talk as a matter of fact. And that is his concept of Syatvad. Syat. Syat means maybe or perhaps. Maybe or perhaps. Now what is Mahavir saying there? I don't think, again, I am not exaggerating. There is nobody except Mahavir who has said this. That's why it is unique. It is unique. There is only two logics in the world. Two logics in the world. One is the logic of Socrates and another is the logic of Mahavir. There are only two logics. There is no third logic in the world. Now Socrates' logic is mathematics because it is very clear. Socrates says A is A and B is B. Night is night and day is day. Very clear about logic. But Mahavir says it just can't be. It just can't be. So Mahavir says this is a pot. Then Socrates will say, this can be a pot or this cannot be a pot. Because pot is after all nothing but mixture of words. So one way of looking is it is mixture of words, and the other says no. Then look at that mixture of words is different than this pot. So pot is pot. So at the base you can say that pot is either a pot or not a pot, either or. When Mahavir says no. Mahavir says it is a pot, it is not a pot. He looks at it from third point of view. That, for example, Mahavir says that take that example of 10 blind men touching the elephant. And one man says elephant is like this straight pillar because he touches the foot. And the second man describes second part of the animal and say no, animal is like that. So Mahavir says one who has an eye, what will he say that the first guy who says this element is like a pillar? The guy with the eye who says that is true. He looks like a pillar, but it's not pillar itself, so he is more than that. So what the first guy is saying is both true and not true. It is like a pillar, but it is not totally like a pillar. So what he said is true and not true at the same time. But Mahavir doesn't stop there. So far, so good. But Mahavir describes the same reality 7 times, in 7 ways. Now it becomes very complex, so I don't want to bore you, but nobody has described truth that way. Nobody has described. One reason why there are not many followers of Mahavir, why there are only 2-3 million people in the whole world who call themselves Jainas. Question. Why, Muhammad's followers are billions and Buddha's followers they are billions and Hindus are billions and why 3 million Jainas in the world? Question. Answer is very simple. If somebody tells me that my way is the only way, follow me, I'll take you to the truth. Easy to follow. My way is very difficult to follow because Mahavir says truth can be this, truth can be that. That may be not true, this may not be true. 7 ways he describes this truth. Now the followers would say, hey guy, what kind of a guy is this? He doesn't know how to describe truth. But he's very honest. He's very honest. He says truth is so big. Now this is impossible statement. Impossible statement. Western mind would never understand this, and I don't blame the Western mind. Mahavir says, if I say A and you say B, and B is diametrically opposed to what I am saying, okay? Mahavir says both can be right or both can be wrong. truth is so big that two opposite views, A and B, diametrically opposed, both can be true. Now this statement nobody has made before. This guy has made that 2600 years ago. That is his theory of relativity, or what we call Sadhva. And remember, how big is this? Not a small thing. Why? Because Einstein is the only one who expressed that relative truth in last century. It took 2500 years or 22,000 years before anybody had any concept of theory of relativity. That Mahavir expressed it 2600 years. Absolutely amazing and mind-boggling. You know what this man has conceived. The same thing Einstein was able to explain in the physical sciences. When atom was split, they found that the smallest particle that you can find is electron. And when the physicists observed the electron, they were amazed that it had the characteristics of both the matter and the wave. Now, in physics they say it can't be two. Either it is a matter or it is a wave. Can't have a matter and a wave at the same time, which Mahavir says 2600 years ago. A and B, although they are diametrically opposed to each other, they both are correct. Okay? So physics had to come out with a new word to describe this unique phenomenon which was contrary to each other, and they call it quantum. A new word was coined by Einstein, which Mahavir's mind in those days, not in the world of physics. I must clarify that. I am not talking about a scientific discovery of Einstein, but in the world of spirituality, Mahavir is the only person who has said that truth is relative. Now, many people will argue with me. Everybody says truth is absolute. Okay? So why would Mahavir say that? Where there is a distinction, big distinction. The realized truth, the experienced truth, what we call darshan, you know, the Big Bang, what happens in Samadhi, what Christ realized, what Krishna realized, what Buddha realized, what Mahavir realized, whom Jainas would call Samyak Darshan. Darshan, not philosophy. What experience these people have, now that experience of truth is absolute. There is no question about it. That truth can be two. Impossible. That truth is one. It is the same experience no matter when it will happen. It happened to Abraham, it happened to Jesus Christ, it happened to Gorakhnath, it happened to Gurdjieff, it will happen to many more. It will be the same experience. It can be two. But when that experience is conveyed through mind, when mind enters, everything becomes pure. Mind never can express anything. Once you use the word, duality comes in the picture automatically. It is no way to avoid it. So Mahavir says that once this experienced truth, what you call Samyak Darshan, when it is expressed, it becomes relative because it is our viewpoint. Because once it is your viewpoint is never total. You are looking to a sky through a window And no matter how that window is, you cannot see the total sky. In darshan, you see the total truth. In darshan, you see the totality, absolute oneness of truth. But once that oneness of truth is expressed, no matter what you use for expression, the truth is lost. So that truth that you express is always relative. So Mahavir says what? That this is most important. Most important. Any insistence by anybody, that I have the monopoly of truth is absurd. Is absurd. Mahavir negates fundamentalism in such a unique fundamental way there is no scope of any fundamentalism. And the whole problem of the modern world, terrorism and everything else, streams out of this insistence that mine is the only way. What are terrorists saying? That our Sharia law is the only law. If you don't follow it, I am going to kill you. That is what Christians did in their crusades. Now they are not doing it. They have become very civilized, and thank God that although the belief is the same, and we have many branches of Hinduism right now practiced right in Cleveland. If you ask the followers, they will insist that our way is the only way. You can't go and find truth unless you follow our guru or our way. Now Mahavir 2600 years ago said that's stupidity. You cannot insist that my way is the only way. Now I would grant that somebody says that my way is a faster way, my way is a more convenient way for me. For me, this is the best way. But heck, there is not only one way that you can reach the top of the mountain. There are 1,000 ways. Okay? Some way may be longer. Some way may have thorns more. Some may have flowers more. So when Christianity says, or the Muslim world says, or any cult or any offshoot of any Hinduism says that you have to follow my way or my Guru's way, my Guru said stupidity. Mahavir would be asked any question at any time. Is there a God? Is there heaven and hell? Is there moksha? Is there truth? And any question anybody asks to Mahavir at any time, he answers, and then he says, Shat, perhaps, maybe. He never insists that that's the only truth. Now, no wonder for this kind of a man, hardly you will find any follower. Who will follow this man?
You seem to follow.
He's a unique man. Gary is such a unique man I have never seen in the human history. Would go to such extent of non-violence. Now tell me, if this idea of Mahavir is taught in your university, to every student, what is Shahdwad? Perhaps no insistence, no absolutism, okay? No fundamentalism. If this goes into your consciousness, would it not that do good to the humankind? I believe so. I believe so. So if I was the education minister of any country, I would make it a compulsory course.
That'll be imposing will. That will be imposing your will.
Yeah, I understand.
You can't do that.
I understand, but I would say, sad, that would
Perhaps.
succeed.
Sad.
Perhaps that would succeed. I would say, it will succeed, sad.
Sad.
Okay?
Right.
That's what I would recommend.
Yeah.
So if you don't take anything out of my lecture today, please take this. Please take that thought. Tell your kids, don't insist that your way is the only way. Tell other people who follow other religions, let them follow. I don't mind them. If that way pleases you, as I said, if you say that my way is good, the best way for me, God bless you. Okay? I have no problem. If you can surrender to stone, you will find it. So surrendering to your Guru, follow your Christ, Krishna, who cares? Buddha, who cares? Follow. But don't tell anybody else that if you don't follow my way, you are never going to find truth. Or that if you don't follow my way, I'm going to kill you. Or even if you don't kill me, the very idea that you are telling me that your way, you will never reach it, is violence. Is very extreme violence according to Mahavir. So to me, his contribution to the modern world is extremely significant, extremely important, and in my judgment it is very tragic that only few people in the modern world know about Mahavir. It's a tragedy, greatest tragedy, according to me. Another two very important points about Mahavir that I want to make is Mahavir has used a unique term for meditation. Meditation has been used by Buddha, and in yoga you use meditation as a technique. But Mahavir has used unique description of meditation. In meditation, what happens is, when you say, I am meditating, even the Hindi word or Gujarati word dhyana, that is translated from meditation, leads you to question immediately. When you say, I am meditating, the next question arises in your mind is, meditating on whom? હું ધ્યાન કરું છું તો કોનું? That's a natural question. Now the real meditation, you don't do anything. Non-doing is meditation. It is not concentration on anything. So any description of actual meditation falls short. You cannot describe it by meditation, you cannot describe by dhyan. There is no word comes even close to the actual happening in meditation which describes it, except Mahavir. Except Mahavir. What Mahavir says, he uses two words, Pratikraman and Samayik. Now why they are significant? Very significant words he is using. What he is saying is that what happens in meditation is our consciousness is always other oriented. Most of the time our consciousness is going outside, other oriented, outside. So Mahavir said the first step in meditation is how to bring that outward going consciousness back home. Pratikraman means come back home. Come in the other direction. It's like sun setting, calling all his rays to come back home. So Mahavir's description of meditation is, first step, bring your consciousness which is going outward way to bring inward. That's the first step. And then what he says is amazing. He said, then that consciousness that you have brought home within yourself, inside you, which was always going outside, make it stay there. Samayik. Now this is again another Einstein comes here. When Mahavir says Samayik, what does it mean? Mahavir says the concept of time itself is related to consciousness. So Mahavir says Atma is synonymous with Samaya. Why? Because Samaya has no beginning and no end, like Atma. Mahavir also says, this is unbelievable, Jnani. Unbelievable. Mahavir says even the space, kshetra, is similar to time. It has no beginning, no end, limitless, undying. So kshetra and kal, time and space. That's why he describes Atma as Samaya. And Samayik means that outward going consciousness that you have brought back home. Now keep it in your soul, in your consciousness. That is meditation. These two words are so unique, so beautiful, which describes perfectly what happens in a meditation state, which no other language, not English, not Hindi, nor Dhyan, nor Zen, which is nothing but Dhyan, nothing that has been ever described this experience of meditation as Mahavir has ever described. Now what Jainas do in Pratikraman and Samayik, I'm not talking about that. Okay? But what Mahavir has said about that, that's what I'm talking about. થોડું લાંબુ ચાલશે પણ તમને બધાની ઈચ્છા હોય તો મારું પૂરું કરું, કારણ કે લાંબુ ચાલે એવું છે થોડું. પણ તમને મજા પડતી હોય તો ચલાવો, ના મજા પડતી હોય તો ના ચલાવો. ચલાવવું છે આગળ. ઓકે,
બ્રેક લઈને કરવું છે.
હે
5-10 મિનિટનો બધાની ઈચ્છા
ઓકે,
છે.
that's
10
fine,
મિનિટનો
that's
બ્રેક
fine,
લઈએ.
that's fine.
હા.
પણ પછી આપણે Mahavir's concept of creation is also very unique, very unique. Mahavir says that he negates the creator. Mahavir negates the creator. Mahavir says there is law and that's enough. There is no lawgiver, but there is a law. નિયમ પૂરતો છે, નિયંતાની જરૂર નથી. હવે કહે છે કે નિયંતાની concept he negates. There is no creator. And Mahavir says the whole existence, there is no beginning and there is no end. This is a unique concept because the whole Western mind cannot conceive of anything created without there is a creator. Mahavir negates the whole idea of a creator. He says existence is from the beginning. since it has no beginning, it will have no end. And therefore soul which has no beginning will have no end. So the beautiful thing Mahavir says is, forget about the creator. There cannot be a creator, because once you say that X created the world, then the second question says, who created X? And then there is infinite regression. That question cannot be answered. If X created the world, then Y created X, and then Z created, I mean, you go on endlessly about creation. So he said, that's a false concept. Forget about the creator. Existence is from the beginning, and therefore it has no end. Now everything within that existence, which has no beginning and no end, everything that is created will have a finite life. Even the largest sun will have a finite life. Okay. Everything that is created will have a finite, but there is something, and for that you don't need or depend upon a creator. This is unique. This is a unique way of describing the creation. Another thing that I want to really emphasize, and this is another most important point that you can take after Shadwell, and that is all religions of the world for thousands of years, all organized religion, you listen to any lecture anywhere, any Dharma Guru, any organized religion, they say, and they have been repeatedly saying this for thousands of years, and nobody has asked this question. They say that you can have a Samyak Charitra. You do these things. Don't lie, don't cheat, don't this, don't eat that. Don't do this, don't do that. 10 commandments, commandments after commandments after commandments. And you live your life this way, not that way. Then from that Samyak Charitra, you will lead to Samyak Jnana. You will have Prajna. From that behavior of yourself, by ideal behavior, you will lead to ideal knowing. From Samyak Charitra to Samyak Jnana, and then ultimately you will reach the Samyak Darshan, which is moksha or truth or whatever. And nobody has questioned this very simple question. That for 3,000 years you have been telling this. Has there been any, transformation of a human being for what you have been preaching? So those who understand Mahavir correctly would say the whole process is reverse. Whole process is reverse. Don't waste your energy and do's and don'ts. Eat this and you eat not, One day you ate meat, so you will never find it. If that was correct, if that thesis was correct, then Christ should not have gone to, found heaven. Okay? The entire majority of the population of the world would never reach truth according to that theory, because they are non-vegetarian.